Guys, gals, non-binary pals, we in here, Pro Wrestling's BFF, Nick Maniwa, and I think I feel like drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're finishing filling out your order, use the code Drinking at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking
All
go.
right, everybody. Welcome, Drinking at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good shit. Because YouTube's algorithm is a pain in the ass.
The worst.
Yet you get it. Most audio platforms too, most of the major ones anyways. Today, I'm excited to have with me Nick Maniwa. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have some fun. I'm excited to drink at Moe's.
Yes. But yeah, I was excited to get to confirm to have you on, and then man, stuff just picked up for the next month was
Right.
nuts. And I mean, outside the podcast, I even got a pretty decent month coming up. AEW Collision is coming to just across town for me
Oh, fun.
on June 8th. So I'm going to that.
That's awesome.
And I got a ticket third row right behind the announce desk.
Oh, okay. So you'll probably be on.
Probably. I mean, I'll be bringing this with me, so that
Blinding everybody with the Drinking at Moe's title, right?
yes, it will be plainly visible, I imagine.
Right.
And then Sammy Callahan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver, on the 22nd is having a show in Des Moines. Yep. So I'm going to that. And
how far from here?
I got a figure for a guy that I'm wanting to meet that is going up against Paul Walterhauser, Danhausen.
Oh, fun.
So that's going to be my first time seeing him live.
Right. I actually Danhausen before the makeup. He did one of those IWA tryout shows.
Okay.
He wasn't even just Danhausen. He was Donovan Danhausen before he got into the makeup.
Yeah. And you know what? That actually leads me into the thing I normally start off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you started jumping into the business in the aspect that you're in it.
Right. So I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. Obviously, Louisville, Kentucky is one of the towns on the Jerry Lawler, loop. And my older sister Patty, used to go to shows, and she ended up getting friendly with them, and she would sell merch or sell concessions or give guys rides or whatever. So I've kind of been around wrestling my whole life. I was born in '88, and she used to walk from my house to the Louisville Gardens, which is not an easy walk, but that's how much she cared about pro wrestling and going to the shows. And then, it was just a constant in my household. One of my first memories in life, not even just in wrestling, but in life, is like someone jumping PG-13 and people like making a save. And I can't tell you how many times I like recreated that with my wrestling buddies, as the guy getting jumped, as the guy jumping, as the guy making the save, all gamut.
Oh, the whole.
I was doing it all. And Patty, through USWA, met Ian Rotten, who I know is not a well-liked man anymore, which, say what you will about them, but they ended up becoming boyfriend girlfriend, getting married, yada yada yada, and he had a wrestling hotline. This was in 1996, so he had a wrestling
Around that time.
he had a wrestling hotline, and he would just, he had a big tape collection, so he was a tape trader. And if he heard some news or something, hey, so and so's jumping here or whatever, well, he started getting all these messages on the hotline, like, hey, I wish ECW would come here, I wish that ECW style, because at this point, 95, 96, people were tired of the Memphis stuff. It was the same hokey, and I love Memphis wrestling. There's nothing in pro wrestling that I love more than Memphis wrestling. Like, Lance Russell and Dave Brown are my all-time faves. I actually did a show last weekend because Dave Brown was supposed to be at a convention before the show. And the only reason I took the booking was to meet Dave Brown. I get there, they're like, yeah, he didn't make the show. And I was like, nah.
Damn it.
Yeah. So I unfortunately never got to meet Lance. So I was like, oh, I'll just meet, Dave. And unfortunately that did not happen. But anyway, all these fans are saying, hey, we want that ECW style, yada, yada, yada. He ran a show in April of 96. And I don't know if you know anything about Kentucky weather, but it is crazy. It's rainy one day, sunny one day, could be snowing, could be sleet. Well, it was like April blood showers 1996, and it was snowing. There was a giant blizzard outside.
Oh boy.
They still had a show, and then he was still, him and Pondo were doing like touring matches around, barbed wire bat, Indian strap, whatever they could find, thumbtack match, whatever, Four Corners of Pain. So he was kind of busy with that. And then in October of 96, he found what we call the old Kmart building. And that's what we count really as the IWA anniversary, the opening, October of 96. So since, October of 96, I'm not sure if I was at that April show, but I did used to go to like the spot shows with, my sister and Ian. And, October 96, he brought in Flyboy Rock or Rock to wrestle Bull Payne. I believe this is on IWTV. Bull Payne he did power slam Rock or Rock off of a little staging area, and when he came down, he hit head first on the concrete, so he hardwayed himself real bad. And I think it's on one of the best of IWAs on IWTV, the backstage of him like getting sold up. But yeah, I remember meeting like Ted Petty at that at that show. So I was definitely at that first show. So I've been around IWA, since the very beginning. And, as a kid, I would help set up chairs or, run, gimmicks or, do whatever I could. And then eventually we moved into the Charlestown building, the Blue Barn, as CM Punk lovingly calls it. And I started sitting with the music guy, the sound guy, and kind of learning what he was doing. And at that time it was putting a CD in a CD a CD player and turning it up on the thing, and then fading it down and changing out the CDs. When I quit doing the sound all the time, I had just barely started using the laptop. Like for TPI 04, one of the greatest tournaments of all time, I was using a 5 CD changer because there's 24 guys in the tournament. So, I'm trying to make sure, Rain Man doesn't come out to Todd Sexton's music and whatever else. But I started getting friendly with the sound guy, and then he had something come up where he couldn't do it anymore. So then they're like, hey, you know what you're doing. You sit up here next to him every week. And I got into doing the sound and like the fall winter of 02. And then I was just the sound guy. I would go to every show with them and do the sound. And then in 2008, my good friend Jim Fannin was doing commentary, and I looked over and there was nobody over there, and he like waved me over like, hey, come on. And if you listen to it, it's like a Sami Callihan Necro Butcher match, which in 2008, that's when Sammy started breaking out and he was really doing stuff and trying to make a name for himself. So, and he's a buddy of mine. He was, as soon as he came into IWA, we were fast friends. So like, I'm trying to put him over big time, and I'm just screaming and hollering and doing everything you're not supposed to do on a microphone in that match. And I think Ian or Jim or someone was like, "Yeah, Mike Burns said you scream too much from Smart Mark." I was like, "Oh, well." And since that time, I guessed it in '08, and I would jump on here and there. They eventually moved to the Illinois area, so I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, so I wouldn't go to as many shows. And then uh, when I would go to shows, I was like, okay, I'm not doing sound anymore. I'll jump on commentary, and then, that's how I started in commentary, I guess you would say. And this is a really long-winded answer, but give you my whole timeline. Bam, 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 bam.
It's all
But
good.
yeah, I met Reed Bentley in 2010. He was just doing these terrible shows ran by a guy that didn't know what he was doing, and it was just guys out of a backyard. They had a ring, a high spots ring, and they would go to like church gyms and yada yada yada. So he was on those shows, and the first time I ever talked to Reed Bentley, he was a mutual friend of another guy, Cage Cutler. And the first thing I ever said to Reed Bentley was like a long paragraph in a Facebook message, like, "Hey, this is what you did wrong. You shouldn't do this. Don't wear a t-shirt. Don't do Brian Danielson's move." And instead of him being like, "Hey, fuck off, I don't even know you," he was like, "Hey, thanks, man. I'm trying to, I'm getting better. I'm trying to get better," and yada yada yada. And I got him out of there, and then I just pushed him to everybody I could, pushed him to HWA in Cincinnati, and pushed him to IWA when they started running again. We went up to one of the King of the Death matches, and he was supposed to be in a squash match with Congo Kong, and someone did make the show. Imagine that in indie wrestling, and he ended up being in the tournament, and then did a non-tournament six-man tag of the losers the next night, which is actually the first time him and John Wayne Murdoch ever tagged up in any sense in wrestling. So yeah.
Hey, I got a little bit of a tie to that one because it took me a little over a year, but I did get my one done with John Wayne Murdoch.
Oh, fun.
We've been talking back and forth for, like I said, a little over a year, and finally got it nailed down.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool, the ties with the deathmatch stuff, because I've been a huge fan of deathmatch wrestling ever since watching like some of the older CZW Cage of Deaths.
Right.
And then I just, oh God, I'm trying to think. Alex Colon was actually the first big deathmatch name that I got on.
Oh, fun.
And I was kind of surprised because I was still, hell, I still am kind of this way, that some of those like huge names on the independent scene, or hell, even national TV, right. I kind of like, are they even gonna want to? And like, I've even said to some of them, I'm like, this might be a long shot, but
right
here. And thankfully, more often than I get turned down, they actually accept, and we good time. And hell, here I am now, almost inching closer to 300 episodes now.
I noticed that, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, I never thought I'd get anywhere close to that. But it gets me thinking, commentary, sound, podcasting. There's all sorts of things in the business to do besides the, in-ring product itself, that like people don't often think about, because I mean, as they should be, they're concentrating on the in-ring product. Right. But then, you get people that get in that, training, they might realize that, hey, maybe the in-ring aspect isn't where I can be and where I can help. And then they end up, through helping out with sound or whatever, they find their niche.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I always say pro wrestling is for everyone. Being a pro wrestler is not, and that's okay. No, we don't need everyone to be a pro wrestler. You can be a backstage interviewer. You can be like you said, a podcaster, an announcer, whatever. There's a million roles on a show, and you need every single one of them to make sure that show goes well. You can't without all the pieces, you can't make a puzzle. You know what I mean? That's what I was trying
Yeah,
to say.
yeah.
It
No,
could
I get you. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense because yeah, you need every one of those pieces to really get the show running the way it should be.
yeah, and a lot of times at IWA, I was 8, 9 pieces instead of having someone in those roles. I mean, I've said it multiple times. Uh, at one point it was like, oh, hey, you're gonna do commentary, and I was like, all right, cool. And then it was like, hey, we need someone to ring the bell. It's like, okay, I can do that. Hey, we need someone to keep the time. Okay, I can do that. Hey, I need someone to ring announce. I was like, all right. So at one point I was, going to shows. I would get there on a Thursday. We were running the arena every Thursday in Jeffersonville for quite a while. I would get there on a Thursday. I would go set up the cameras, set up the laptop, then go to Ian and run down what the show's going to be. And most of the time, tell everyone what they were doing. Every now and then he would have a meeting upstairs with everyone. Hey, this is what we're doing, match one, yada yada yada. And a lot of, I mean, the Jeffersonville Arena has like, 15, 16 stairs. And he's not a good walker as it is on flat ground. So he wouldn't risk the stairs. So, there's times where, I get the card, I'm writing it on the whiteboard, I'm telling everyone what they're doing. Make sure you hit this line in this promo and yada yada yada. And if you've never worked here before, I need your music. And then I would get their music, and then I would go and I would put the laptop in order in terms of the playlist. And then I would, as doors are opening and fans are coming in, I would get on my giant phone notes app that I had everyone's intro and copy and paste and put it where I needed. And when the show started, I was the one, making the opening announcements, making the ring announcements, ringing the bell, doing the all at the same time. And when IWA went down in 2022, more than one guy hit me up and was like, "Hey man, when are you starting your own thing?" And I said, "Man, I have no money. I'm a stay-at-home dad on a stay-at-home dad budget. Like I have." He was like, "Well, I know you can do everything. I've seen you do it all at the same time." I said, "Well, find someone to give me some money, bro, and I'll be running, tomorrow." But yeah, it's
No, there's a lot of those. Yeah, I could. It's nice when you have separate people for all of that,
yeah,
but there are a lot of those that I mean, theoretically, you could have one person do
right.
multiple, like the commentary, ring bell, timekeeper. I mean, it's possible, but yeah.
Uh, and at times it was easier for me to just do everything instead of giving one job to one person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
No, totally understand.
I'm sure people are like, "Oh, he's full of shit," but that it's seriously what it was. Like one time we had a guy. He said, "I brought a ring announcer for you." I said, "Okay, cool." I said, "Hey, man, I have this list of intros. It's everyone that's on the show is on here. I can send it to you on Facebook, and then you can go." And he's, "Oh, well, actually, I don't have Wi-Fi right now, so I don't know how I would get that message." And I just grab notebook and paper and pen. It's like, all right, man, go knock it out, go figure it out. Because I'm doing everything else. I can't also babysit you when I could just do what you're gonna do and everything be perfect.
No, yeah. And it actually, all of that actually leads me to one question that I have is I am actually making my commentary debut in August. A friend of mine is running a show for a charity show for like suicide prevention, and it's shaping up to be pretty good. I mean, the main event, I get to call a match for Cheeseburger.
Oh, fun. I Me and my wife used to have a bit. Anytime that music played that I did not recognize, I would say, "Who is this? Cheeseburger?" And it was never Cheeseburger until the clusterfuck this year when I said, "Who is this? Cheeseburger?" And it was actually Cheeseburger. It paid off. I finished the story.
But it leaves me, you having the experience in there, you have any like tips or advice for me kind of being I mean, I have experience with the podcasting aspect
Right.
of things, but as far as commentary, you got any tips or advice?
Doing the podcast will actually, help greatly instead of, just a guy coming off the street. You know how to talk, you know how to talk about wrestling. You know what you're talking about essentially. I would say one of the biggest things I try to tell people, and especially young commentators, is don't think you have to fill the silence with your voice. You can let the action speak for itself. Always, at IWA, sometimes, there would be some, beef and they'd be talking smack and I'd, mute my guy or, hey, be quiet. Let's let them, say, hey, your mother sucks or, whatever they're saying.
Yeah.
Or just, these guys are hitting guys and girls and non-binary pals are hitting each other as hard as they can. And you want to hear that. You want to hear Reed Bentley clobber someone with an elbow. You want to hear Chris Hero hit a big boot on someone. You want to hear Aaron Williams with the head kick. All these knockout blows. You want to hear those. You don't have to be screaming about it. Scream about it, after it hits, after it's the 1, 2, 3. Oh, you're a winner. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would just I said earlier, Lance Russell and Dave Brown were like my all time favorite. It felt like a conversation with them. It wasn't them calling wrestling. They were having a conversation and a wrestling show happened to be going on in the same studio. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So just relax. Don't take it serious. Don't sweat the small stuff and just have a blast because when you're having fun, the fans can hear it. And I've had multiple people. My good friend Trippin' Balls on Twitter says, I love being at a show that I can see you doing commentary because you can see how much you love this shit. And I said, I do, man. I love it. I think about it, every single day, every minute of every day, I'm thinking about pro wrestling. It's in my blood, I love it. I react the same way on my couch for a dive that I react when I'm doing comedy. Oh, the only difference is I'm cursing up a storm and on my couch, losing my mind, and I try not to do that as much on commentary anymore. But there's nothing like pro wrestling.
Oh yeah.
And those IWA shows, I always say it's like a trail mix because you don't have just pretzel pieces. You have the Chex pieces. You have the M&Ms. There's something for everyone. We just did a show recently. They had a tables match. They had a ladies match. They had a midget match. And this is in 2002, so midget was still okay to say back then. And they were the bloody midgets, so it's all right. They had a tag team title match. They had a 30-minute Iron Man match. They had a 2 out of 3 falls match. So there's literally something for everyone. If you're at a good show, if you're at a show with some real quality people and a good booker and a good promoter and someone that knows what they're doing, like you mentioned, Sammy Callahan or I work for Unsanctioned Pro in Columbus, Ohio. There's always, a mix of stuff there. And, I just love this stuff, man. It's just, there's nothing like it.
Oh yeah. And, I got some topics here for some of the promotions that I know you and I have some mutual ties to, me with some of my guests and you being there for different aspects of the shows. But one other thing I wanted to ask, because I kind of brought it up before we started recording, and this will be out after my wife and I break the news to like everybody. But, you have kids. I'm going to be a dad later this year.
Awesome.
And kind of leads me to my parents a while back were like, when the other situation I told you about was going on, they're like, oh, you're going to need to, like, telling me I'm going to have to just not do the podcast. And I'm like, I understand not going as busy with it as I do right now, but I can't see myself just not doing it at all.
Right. And
how do you find that balance?
Yeah, and your parents probably don't understand what it takes to do this, so they're probably thinking you're spending time and time and time. And I have 2 kids, a son that's 8 years old turning 9 this year, and a daughter that's 5 turning 6. And we're a traveling family. Me and my wife will, get the snack bags together and, have all the snacks ready and, go to a show. There is a local promotion, Grindhouse Pro Wrestling, which is the training school of Too Tough Tony and Ronnie Roberts. And they run every last Sunday, unless there's a holiday or something, every last Sunday in the Jeffersonville Arena, pack the house. And, that's like a normal thing for us. We're always there. My son has his favorites. My daughter has her favorites. They're tagging hands. They're booing bad guys. They're just having a blast. And we're always tell people, especially back in the day, when he first started in school, I said, man, we're a wrestling family. We wrestle around, we suplex and, do everything. I don't want them to think a bruise on his arm is from me beating on him. Like I'm hitting him with an RKO, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So we always try to tell people, hey, we're a wrestling family. We watch all the TV stuff. Monday Night Raw all the way to Friday Night SmackDown. We'll throw on Wrestling Open on Thursday, or this week we watched Impact because it was in Cincinnati, the taping. So we were trying to, see people that we know and see people in the crowd and just checking it out. And he was like, my son was like, what's Matt Cardona's girl doing on Impact? I said, she works there now. He's like, what? He had no idea. I said, well, sorry, I didn't tell you, bud. But you just gotta have that. You just gotta have that flow and that. Make sure everyone's happy. Make sure everyone's, having fun. And if they're not, we don't take them to every show. Sometimes I do GCW loops, and it's just the travel. Going to the St. Louis is like 5 hours, and we'll let them stay at their aunt's house or my nephew's house or something like that. And then, get them on a show up here. Or a couple weeks ago, we did Chad French's Paul Cade, I guess about a month ago now. And, it's all people that they know and at the arena. So, it feels like we live there for as much as we're there with Paradigm and, Paul Cade and the Grindhouse shows and anything else that may pop up. So, they know, hey, we're going to the arena. They know it's okay. We got 20 minutes instead of, hey, we're going to the Valleydale Bar Room, take a nap. It's going to be 3 hours.
Yeah. Now, I was noticing Grindhouse, and well, I mean, John Wayne Murdoch was on the poster that I saw,
Yep.
Which leads me to one question. And pro wrestling on literally any level, it's subjective. You have people that like one thing or another, or you have people like me that you put pro wrestling on in front of me, I'll sit down and watch it.
Yep.
What is your individual taste in wrestling? Like, if as a purely a fan.
Yeah. Like I said, Memphis wrestling was my, lifeblood growing up. I would watch that over the, WWF Mania or whatever played on the weekends. I was watching, the Memphis studio wrestling before I was watching anything else. So anything, with great promos, because, the Memphis guys, all of them could cut a promo, great action, great storylines, stuff that really captivates and, you can invest in it emotionally.
Yeah.
But, I also like, the flippy dippy stuff and Micro Man and yeah, I loved Satin and Brian on Dynamite the other night.
Oh, that was, going into that night, I was a little like, really?
Well,
but then the match happens, and you're like, perfect. Okay, this was way better than I thought it would be.
But besides the table breaking with Sanjay Dutt's superpower strength, I saw that, and I may have been under the influence of a space gummy, but I could not stop laughing. I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
I literally tweeted that night, "Damn, Sanjay, what that table do to you?"
Right. I've never seen anything like that. But I looked up, Saddam's cage match, and that was his third singles match. He had a singles match on the Jericho Cruise, which I don't think footage ever came out, against Serpentico. And then he had a singles with Jimmy Jacobs for Ring of Honor recently.
Oh yeah, that was just last night actually, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. I think that was the big pyro with Jimmy.
Yeah.
I grabbed that from someone else's tweet and just posted it on mine, and my tweet alone has 65,000 views on it. So I was like, Jesus Christ.
Wow. Yeah,
But
I remember I listened to a lot of the Fightful podcasts at work, and I remember Kate talking a lot about, holy crap, did they think they weren't going to be able to use the pyro at the pay-per-view, so they had to just go and use it all?
right. Yeah, someone I think Mary Kate compared it to Regal coming out to the man's man as a rib against Danielson that one time on main
Yeah.
event. It was definitely someone just hitting the button back there a million times. But Jimmy Jacobs is great. He deserves it. He's
Oh
been
yeah.
going at it 20 years, over 20 years. And, he's just a great dude. And that really, I was cracking up at that. But, Brian's, one of the greatest of all time. And I thought that match was a lot of fun. I love Jeff Jarrett too. We brought him in to IWA in 2014, and there was a whole big issue. I don't know if you remember that, but I got to back in the day when I was going with my sister. I have pictures of me as like an infant with Jeff Jarrett. He was my favorite wrestler. So I actually got to show him one of those like Polaroids, like, hey, look at this. And I got a picture with him at that show and had him sign some 8x10s that I already had and stuff. And I love Jeff Jarrett. I think he's also one of the greatest of all time, just because he always finds a way. And
That is true. That
there
is
is
true.
something
He does
about that.
always seem to have that.
Yeah, he always, he always finds a way, and it's nothing but admirable. And I'm so impressed by his movement in pro wrestling.
Oh yeah, and, it's kind of similar in a way to you in the photo with Jeff Jarrett. One of the one of the last times I went to Revolver, I started this thing that first time I meet somebody, get the picture with them. Then if I'm going to meet them again, I get an 8x10 made of it and I have them sign it.
Yep.
One of those times that I went and I saw Rich Swann again, I actually had a picture, the 8x10 made of the time I met him when he was the X Division champ at my first ever Revolver show that happened to be the night of my bachelor party.
Oh, fun.
And I got to tell him that story about that because, my wife still gives me shit about that night because the bachelor party, we were just going to be here in Omaha. It was going to be fine. And then we're at dinner and my best man goes, hey, you want to go to Des Moines for Revolver? I'm like, okay.
Which is how far from you?
Like 2 hours.
Okay. So not unreasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're not your wife, not unreasonable.
I mean, the only thing with my wife is she won't let me drive back that night if I am going by myself because let's just say I have some pretty bad sleep apnea and I'm prone when I'm tired to.
Right.
Yeah, so she pretty much tells me if you're going by yourself, you get a damn hotel.
Right. Absolutely. Better safe than sorry.
But yeah, now, oh God, I'll get it. I think my dog's making a mess over there, but I'll get that cleaned up when we're done. But got me thinking. You mentioned GCW. I have wanted to go to a GCW. Words are hard. I've wanted to go to a GCW show pretty damn bad, but I think St. Louis is as close as they've gotten to Omaha. And especially if Nick Gage is on the damn show, because every time I see him when he's on the damn show, it's like that first boom
Yep.
hit, and that entire damn venue just turns into a fucking mosh pit.
There's
And
nothing
I
like
just I just remember every time I see it, I keep on telling myself, I don't care if I'm standing room only or if I'm front row. I just want to be there for that.
right, right. Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're in that mosh pit with them or not. Like you feel that energy. It's just it radiates through you. If you know any building, by you that could host wrestling, let them know, and they will
Oh,
do the.
oh, I've got a few knowing the
Yeah, I mean,
venues that they've ran. I
yeah,
know a few here in Omaha that.
and they're running here in Louisville in July, and we still have the wrestling commission, and there's not going to be crazy bloodshed and all that stuff, but just because there's no blood doesn't mean GCW is not going to do their thing,
Yeah.
and just like I said with a good wrestling show, it's like trail mix. You have a little bit of everything, and that's what GCW brings every single time. I'm
Oh yeah.
so grateful to be able to work with them as often as I do. When I do get the chance, it's just a blast. And working with someone like Dave Prazak, another guy that I looked up to as a commentator. He was, from 2001 when Small Market Video came in for King of the Death until he left in 2005. Commentary and hard cam and music was kind of right by each other. So, and just watching the footage back, I would just hear Dave's stuff, and someone was like, "Oh, I was watching GCW and Dave said this thing and it sounded like you." I said, "Oh, I stole it from him, man." So don't say he's doing a Nick Manuel. I say Nick Manuel is doing a Dave Praise that, because that's what it is. And it's like a night off. You just he's going to be there. You can get in. And when I'm doing commentary with Dave, I'm just trying to sneak in all these inside references that only me and him care about. Talking about the Lancaster twins and JV Insanity and just stuff from IWA lore that nobody even knows. But I'll be able to pop Dave. So that's why I do it. And GCW is the best. Yeah, if you have any hookups on buildings, definitely let Brett know, because I mean they're going all over, man. They're going to Hawaii in November, so I feel like if they can run in Kentucky and get it.
I mean, they can run in damn Omaha.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So sounds pretty great experience that you've had. Is there any show that you've been a part of that kind of stands out to you as like one of your more memorable ones that you've been a part of?
I was actually in the Eagle's Nest for Smojo and Necro Butcher. I didn't do anything on that show. I just went along. My buddy Jim Fannin was managing. He was the heel manager at the time. So me and him and our girlfriends at the time made the trip to Philly, and we stopped at the pier and Navy Pier and whatever. And we made a real trip of it instead of just going to the show and coming straight back. But if you watch that Joe and Necro match back, if you see a yellow T-shirt up in the Eagle's Nest, it's me wearing a Boz Rule shirt that Ryan Boz had at the time. So that's a big one. Obviously, TPI 2004, people always say is the greatest tournament of all time. I did sound at that show. It's like 1 a.m. and I'm watching Bryan Danielson, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe go to the ring for the main event, and falling asleep almost because we've been there for so long. The show started at 8 o'clock, it's 1 a.m. or whatever. Just so many shows like that. I got to call TPIs, and I got to call King of the Death matches, and I got to call all these big matches from 2013 to 2022 of IWA's run, and just seeing, my best friend Reed Bentley wrestle Chris Hero, his dream match. I got to be on the call for that. And that, stuff like that really means a lot to me. Even if it was only 200 people in a skating rink, like it felt like WrestleMania, because, I got to see my best friend do what he always wanted to do, and wrestle, his favorite wrestler ever.
That is always a good feeling when you get to see your friends living out a dream in that aspect. I've, seen my fair share of crazy moments a lot of them at Revolver,
Right.
and I think you'll know what I'm talking about. And all I got to do is say three letters: SGC.
Right, man. Right.
Yeah,
The I believe Mance Warner graduated wrestling school in like the fall of 2015, and in the summer of 2016, uh, we needed an extra guy on the show at the Jamers Roller Dome, and I reached out to him, and he got there, and I said, "You can say whatever you want, just don't touch the fans," because we had an issue with heels putting hands on fans or spitting, or doing the snot rockets, which it's fucking disgusting. Don't do that. If you're watching this and you're a wrestling bad guy, don't anything coming out of your body is not good towards a fan. Don't fucking do that.
yeah,
But anyway, I told him, I said, "You can say anything you want." He said, "I can say anything I want." I said, "Yep." And he came out, and his first match there, he's cussing up a storm. He's trying to flip people's hats off, and whatever. And then he went on a losing streak. But as he was on this losing streak, he would come out and gloat about how last week I got another one. This is better than Goldberg Street. I'm undefeated. And the fans would just give him shit. And he was so effective as a bad guy. They started loving him, and he was able to turn babyface and really have a great run there. Matthew Justice, an insane person.
yeah. I've
Just
seen him jump off a scaffold twice.
right. He's definitely jumped off the steps at the arena, and just some of the stuff he does. I don't know how he's still walking. I don't know if his old man age is gonna treat him well. He might be walking like Terry Funk and Beyond the Mat. And then
Yeah,
you got Manders, Steve Manders. I got to see him like his like 14th or 17th or 20th match or something very early in his career. And he was a guy that was making the trip down from Iowa to the Memphis flea market or to the arena. And he was always a guy that picked Ian's brain and just sat beside him. And, he would have his match and get critiques. And then, he would be put against guys better and then put against, this better guy. And then, just to see the wrestler that he's turned into from the football player Steve Manders to the one called Manders, which started as basically a rib on himself. He had the full beard and he shaved it in the Fu Manchu just as a joke, and found a cowboy hat where he was living and came out, and then everyone was like, "Yo, that's it, like you got to do that." And then here comes the chaps, here comes all the stuff that makes him the one called Manders. Another great dude. I love that dude.
Oh, yeah.
He when we had a building here in New Albany for a short time, him and Satu Jin had one of the greatest uh strap matches, or Texas death match, I think it was. And sometimes those Texas death matches are clunky, and people don't know the rules, and the fans don't know the rules, and the guys don't really understand the rules. But him and Satu had some killer Texas death matches during the dying days of IWA Midsouth. And him and the guy that was riding with him, Dustin Mosley, who I believe is the SCW Pro Heavyweight Champ, or he was at one point. But they stayed here and hung out with me the next day. We watched shitty wrestling. He wrestled with my kid. It was a blast. So I got nothing but love for all those guys, man. They're maniacs.
No, yeah, no, same. I've gotten Manders laughing more than once, but I've got a joke with actually all of them that their matches might as well be sponsored by Home Depot,
Right.
because all that
Yeah.
shit that gets thrown around in there. And then Manders, him being from the University of Iowa, me living literally an hour away from Lincoln, Nebraska, and my family having football season tickets since the sellout streak started. The last time I saw him, I gotta say, because we've never had a bad interaction
Right.
between each other, I told him, who said a Hawkeye and a Husker couldn't get along?
Right, absolutely.
Then he laughed, and I think it was Crash Jackson one time. I believe it was him that asked me about my beard, and like how long have I been growing it, and I just said, "No, it's been a while. I can't remember the last time I went clean shaven." And I couldn't help myself. I said, "Me with my bald head, clean shaven, my head would look like a penis." And
Right.
and he was practically on the floor laughing.
Right. Same, bro. I there was a few years ago they did a Halloween show at the arena, and I shaved fully and wore a crown, and I was Jerry Lawler for the night. And as soon as you start and you're like, oh, this is a mistake. What am I doing? And then it was too late. So, I just had a fat face for, a month or two. Like, well, I grew back. There's the puppy right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
Tank.
yeah, yep. He's a big old boy. But got to thinking because I got it in my notes here. A couple of the other promotions that we have in common.
Yes.
One, because I've had him on twice. Schwartzy talking about Flophouse Wrestling.
Yes. Flophouse Wrestling. That started just, kind of, they had their first show behind an actual flop house, their buddy's house. They just ran a wrestling show, and then unfortunately COVID hit, so they were doing, the private tapings and stuff like that. And then when they started running again, and my schedule cleared up a little bit, I started going up to those shows at the Indiana City Brewing Company, and those are just a blast. You get to see people you don't get to see all the time, like Malcolm Monroe the third from Michigan, or this guy and that guy. And I got to meet Paul London at their show that they did in Detroit at the old Miami bar. I believe they have Paul London coming back to that bar
If they
in
do, yeah.
in August or around August.
Somewhere around, yeah.
Yeah. So I believe Swartzy and Randy have relocated to Michigan.
I
So
believe, yeah.
I probably won't make it out there as much as possible. But if they do any of those secret tapings at the House of Truth, I did post commentary for one of their shows there. And, Peapod from Ruthless Pro Wrestling has kind of stepped in the booth, and it is continuing there at Flophouse, which I told them, I said, don't think I'm gonna have any ill will towards anyone, jumping on commentary. That's not who I am. Run your show. If I can make it, great. If I can't make it, great. I know you guys are gonna kill it like always. We had a great show at a brewery in Cincinnati a couple years ago that was just outstanding. And they had all those shows at the Indiana City Brewing Company, and then unfortunately that place shut down. So then it was like kind of we're trying to find a building in Indy, and then it's impossible to find a wrestling building. Especially when you want to get floppy like we do at Flophouse. So, we were running outside at Long Shot Bar in Indianapolis, and that wasn't really working out. So, they relocated back to Michigan. Hopefully, because we had some steam there, so hopefully they can get that momentum back and really start pounding. And I'm really excited to see what Flophouse does in 2024.
Oh yeah, I've got nothing but great things to say about them and my interactions with Swartzy, getting to record with him twice actually. Mania week, I actually aired his second episode with me, so always a fun time. And well, we got two other promotions in common. One, I actually have a souvenir behind the camera from Mid Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, they've ran a couple shows here in Omaha, and now they're coming back.
Yep.
But the first show I ever went to there, I guess my ticket ended up doubling as an entry into a raffle for an event used item signed by everybody.
Oh wow.
And I didn't realize that I won until after the show. Carver comes up and hands me half a door.
Oh. Is that what you have behind the camera? Fantastic.
Mhm. Yep, I got half an hour signed by
Fantastic.
everybody. It's like a big chunk of it's dented. There's still blood stains on
Right,
it.
right. God
So
bless.
yeah, I remember the first time my wife actually saw it, and she's like, "Is that blood on there?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Right. Yeah. When Mid-Death started, uh, Malachi hit me up. Obviously, everyone knows,
yeah,
I'm not killing anything there. He hit me
yeah,
up and was like, "Hey, man, we're doing this. What's your fee?" And we kept doing it. And then, when they started running Omaha and started running more shows, I said, "Hey, man, if there's people up there to do commentary, just do comment. Like it's not again, it's not going to bother me if it works
yeah,
out." And he goes, "No, I want you for a reason. You give us credibility. People know you've seen some crazy shit. So if you're commenting that we're doing crazy shit, they're going to believe you because you've seen it all." And I said, "You know what? I never thought about it that way. So hopefully, I can jump on some more mid-death commentary. When they run in the future." I saw that they did one on 420, right?
yeah. They did that one.
They haven't released it yet, or
Yeah, I don't know. I've talked with a couple of people from there. I've had some people from those shows on, but yeah, as far as whatever their next one's gonna be, I haven't really
right,
been
right.
told too much there yet. So who knows? I mean, I was kind of excited when they announced that 421. So
Right.
hoping they get some more out there because that was a fun time. I definitely remember being thankful I wore closed-toed shoes because a piece of the metal connector end of a light tube flew off and hit me in the
Oh my
foot.
God. Oh my God. Yeah, I can tell you. I mean, there's been so many. Like when I was a kid, 6, 7 years old, Ian was doing those touring matches with Pondo or whoever, and they wasn't, the promotion wasn't giving him a barbed wire bat. He was bringing his own. So I remember being a kid, like 6, 7 years old, and I'm around the house, so I just have a giant T-shirt on, and I'm walking down the steps, and my T-shirt catches a spool of barbed wire, and I'm trying to avoid it while trying to go downstairs. So there's so many times, splinters from, picking up wood or random cuts on your hands from moving gimmicks or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You know, a million times there's a million little marks on my hands from all those deathmatch shows. And especially there at the end, I was doing commentary, but then, when a match would end, I would go and get shit out of the
Yeah.
ring and just, try to keep this going. That's my big thing at shows. Even if it's not a show I'm booked to produce on or anything like that, I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's keep it going.
Oh yeah. Now the last of the promotions we have in common because I've had oh God. I can actually count the number I've had from there, unlike H2O and MPX down in Texas. I've lost count of how many people I've had on from there.
Right.
But New South, New South Wrestling. I've had Carmen on. I haven't released Rob Weathers yet, but
I saw that on the upcoming.
that one's coming. I've had Donnie Prime Time, so I've
Okay.
had a number of
Yeah,
people on
yeah.
there. What's your experience been like with them?
The first time I was booked to appear for them was on the Winter Wars Rumble show, and Carmen had a feud with Donnie Primetime at the time. So Carmen was actually wrestling on that show. So that's why I was brought in to fill the spot with Grease Monkey at the time. And my wife got friendly with quite a few people down there. So they said, anytime you want to come down, let us know. So I was able to call a few random here and there shows, and then I got to do Haas 2023, I believe it was, last February. I believe that's still on YouTube for free. a star-studded show. Myron Reed and Martin Stone and
Mm.
just a great show. Warhorse was on it before he started wearing all black again, and he was still wearing the red and yellow at that point.
Mm.
So just a great show if you haven't checked it out. New South is it was a blast. Not too far from Louisville, but far enough where we'd get a hotel or we'd stay somewhere, hit a couch or whatever. We went down one time and then it was like, oh, there's a Whataburger around the corner, and
Oh,
we don't have those around here.
we
So
don't hear either.
I was like, oh, let's go. And then it was just like crazy, it's 1 a.m. or 12 a.m. or whatever it was. So crazy drive-through line, and the kids are asleep, and it's like, oh shit, let's just go. We'll get it we'll get it next time or whatever. But yeah, New South, they got some, and you're starting to see the guys like Hunter Drake and Braden Toon, and
Mhm.
especially back-to-back weeks I got to call a Kinsey Page match for
Ah,
Generation Next Pro Wrestling in Georgetown, Kentucky, and then the next week Kylie Alexa was in Evansville, Indiana for Hooligan Championship Wrestling, a new startup promotion there in the Evansville area. So, and I put out a tweet like, the Henry girls don't miss, like they're fantastic pro wrestlers. And I told the girl that Kylie was wrestling, I went up to her and said, hey, if there's anything you want me to say on commentary, let me know. Any move names, anything like that, just let me know. And then she goes, how is she as a wrestler? How, is it? And I was like, she's stiff, man. She's stiff as hell. And, Kylie's not the biggest thing, but, when she puts all of her body weight into that drop kick, I was I was like, please get a hand up, get both hands up, move your face, because it's going to be killer. And it was the finish for a reason. I tell you that much. So, all that talent from New South. Now Tyler Franks is holding the humongode, as
yeah.
they call it down there. Uh, I think he's going to do great things as a champion. There's so many great young talents in that area that are really doing something. And then you got Carmen on commentary, ring announcing, Rob, who I've never had the pleasure of meeting, but I know Walker Stewart has guested there a couple of times. So they got some of the best going today. On the mic, in the ring, backstage. They're really doing something special, and hopefully they can pick up some momentum that they had last year once again.
Oh yeah, everything that I've been seeing of them has been pretty solid in my opinion, so I'm pretty confident they can accomplish that.
Absolutely.
Now I have two categories. One's a bit of a name game where I
Okay.
name off some people, you give me quick thoughts on them.
Okay.
And I try to theme it towards the guests as much as possible. And we've talked quite a bit about, deathmatch wrestling, IWA, and all that. So a lot of these, every one of these guys has two things in common: big in deathmatch wrestling,
Okay.
and they've all been on the podcast.
Oh, fun.
First one, we talked about him a little bit. John Wayne Murdoch.
John Wayne Murdoch, I that King of the Death match that Reed Bentley went to and filled in, he was Damian Payne at
Mm,
at that tournament, and Ian was like, "You look like a Murdoch. You should be a Murdoch." And then the story
no.
writes itself after that. I When him and Cologne were kind of feuding about who the best, I was always Team John, and in my heart of hearts, I think John Wayne Murdoch is the best deathmatch wrestler going today.
Mm.
There's I just think the world of, and my favorite John Wayne Murdoch is not even deathmatch John Wayne Murdoch. It's chicken shit bullshit Memphis heel John Wayne Murdoch, who he knows all the tricks of the trade. He did them before he got into death matches, and to bring that into the deathmatch realm is just fantastic. We used to have the Memphis flea market. When we moved the commentary booth, we were right over the wall was the locker room. So John Wayne would like be saying some shit and go to the locker room, and then I would go over the wall. Hey, John, go back out there and say more shit. And he'd come back out. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. Just perfect Memphis stuff. And I think John Wayne Murdoch's one of those guys that, he'll hit me up after a match. How was it? What'd you think? Well, what could I have done better? Nothing, John. You're great. You're great. I don't have to tell you you're great, but I will because you are.
The guy's a damn machine with the schedule he keeps.
Yeah, he's in Las Vegas tonight, Chicago tomorrow, and then Columbus, Ohio on Sunday. So I believe he's wrestling Otis Kogar tonight in a death match for Marks RS, I believe. And then tomorrow it's him and Reed Bentley against Zilla and Nick Gage in Chicago in a hardcore match. And then on Sunday it's Reed and John Wayne against Colin Delaney and Cheech from Infinity and Beyond. So he's running the gamut in terms of opponents this weekend for sure.
That is for sure. Yeah, he was another one of those that like I knew I wanted on bad, but I was like at the time I started asking, I'm like, oh God, he's like I was still relatively new in the game when I first started talking to him. So I was like, I'm so new in the game, and he's this big name. Like, what's he going to want to do? Boom! It took a while, but we got it done.
Yeah, he's not like that at all. He's got time for anybody if they got time for him, essentially.
Oh yeah, no, and that is something I can definitely say with him. And hell, I have this. I have it displayed proudly right next to my Matt Cardona signed figure.
Right. Yeah, two deathmatch kings, man.
And you know what? Speaking of that, we actually kind of brought him up, but another deathmatch king, the blood fighter Alex Colon.
Yeah, like I said with the John Wayne feud, I was always team John Wayne. So there was not really animosity or anything like that, but it was kind of a fun type thing. I've actually got to work with Alex a few times with Unsanctioned Pro. Him and John Wayne have reunited the Mega Bastards there. They've been doing all that Memphis bullshit and just doing it well and pissing off the fans and cheating the fans of baby faces winning titles and whatever the case may be. And Alex Colon, unfortunately, I had to miss a unsanctioned show with one of my kiddos being sick, but he got to wrestle Ace Perry on the show, who's not a deathmatch guy. But on the podcast to preview that show, I was like, Alex Colon won Best of the Best. He's not always done this hardcore stuff. Just because he likes doing it doesn't mean he can't wrestle. He's still a great technical wrestler or a great pro wrestler, and obviously I haven't seen the footage yet, so hopefully he got to show some of that against Ace Perry, another guy who I think just the world of. I wish more people would get on that bandwagon because that kid's special. I've seen him, he's been going 12 years now, and gets better with age. He's just and a great dude to boot. So
yeah, and you brought it up great with Alex Colon, because him and I remember we talked about that, and we talked about how deathmatch wrestling, when it's done right, is pretty much just like any other genre of wrestling out there. You just got the deathmatch elements surrounding it.
Yep. You just got to use the psychology to fit in light tubes and doors and barbed wire and whatever else. And you're not just swinging shit to swing shit. You can tell a real story if you know what you're doing. And those two are two of the best. Ricky Shane Page, another guy that was at the top of the top in terms of death matches and doing them well enough to really relate to pro wrestling as a whole.
Oh yeah, and hell, the both of those two together, I've actually seen them the last couple of times at Revolver, teaming up with Macklin.
Yep. Macklin, Killer Kelly as Red. I appreciate Ricky Shane Page wearing that old IWA shirt as one of his red attires, because it's probably one of the only red shirts that he has. But when that whole thing went down, I was like, well, what the hell is this? You never know what's going to happen in indie wrestling. You
Yeah.
never know who's going to be put with who or whatever. And the whole time the videos are happening, you're like, what's this going to be? And then they finally revealed, and I was like, all right, I'm into this. It's different enough, and it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah. I attempted one time after the show to try to uh, talk with Cologne because getting to meet somebody in person that I've had on the podcast, but literally I hear him around the corner outside of the venue in Des Moines, and right as I'm stepping around the corner, he's going right back inside. I'm like, well, damn it.
Usually,
One of these times, because they got that red thing going right now. But I actually have, well, it's in storage down here right now. But when I had him on, he mentioned he was selling off his old kick pads because he was investing in new ones.
right.
And I was like, how much do you want for those? And he said, how make me an offer. So I did. And now I have signed ring worn
Right.
Alex Cologne kick pads that I've actually, when I, I know how I want to have them displayed because I actually found a picture of him in them,
Oh, fun.
like doing like almost a double knee into a
Okay.
painted glass on
Oh, okay. Yeah,
somebody in the corner. So I'm like, yep, I
the picture.
got it
Yeah, absolutely.
in my head. It's just actually
Right.
making it happen now.
Right.
All right, next one, another one of my. Well, I mean, I enjoy all my episodes, but
Yes.
the deathmatch ones, especially since I'm such a huge fan. But this one, he is the current Danny Havoc hardcore champion in H2O, Neil Diamond Cutter.
Neil's another guy that I've known for quite a long time. I believe I first met him in 2010 or 2011, and then saw him pretty frequently in IWA, and then once IWA went away, it was like I never saw him until he started doing like unsanctioned and stuff like that. And every time he's like, "Man, oh wow, what's up, buddy?" I love Neil. He's a crazy son of a bitch. We'll leave it all out there every single time, no matter if there's 20 people, 200, 2,000. It doesn't matter. He's busting his ass. He's taking punishment, and sometimes those East Coast crowds, they're just in the building. They're not even reacting to anything or anything like that. And, he's still putting on a show for them to remember. You know what I mean? And nothing
Sure.
but respect and love to NDC. Hopefully get to see him more often.
I know he's got a pretty big couple of matches for the H2O
Yeah,
anniversary
yeah.
weekend, which unfortunately I'm going to be at Revolver night one, but I've already just decided, you know what? Much like Mania night one, I'm going to watch that as I get ready for night two.
Right, absolutely. That's the way to do it.
I'm just going to do it that way. All right. Two more. One of them, we've mentioned him a couple times actually, and he tried to downplay. I mean, I get it being humble, but he tried to downplay when I called him a deathmatch legend, Madman Pondo.
I've known Madman Pondo since I was like 5 years old. I've known him since like 94, 95, whenever he was doing those touring matches with Ian. And he's done nothing but treat me with respect, treat me with love. I was just telling, I had my buddy Fat Corey that runs Deathmatch Worldwide dropped off some shirts for Cologne and John Wayne last week, and we were telling stories. And Pondo was a guy that would go to Japan and bring me back a signed poster just because he knew I loved it, or an original menu from Abdullah's Chinese and Ribs, signed by Abdullah. He would give to me. And then one time at a show, we're waiting for the building to be unlocked and stuff, and he had a Backyard Wrestling 2 video game shirt on because he's in the video game, got it from free or from whoever. I said, "Hey man, cool shirt, that's awesome." And 5 minutes later, he's coming up shirtless and giving me the shirt. "Hey, here you go, man. uh you like it more than I do." And I said, "Man, that's crazy." But he's just talk about someone that really pioneered that. Obviously Ian and Axel brought death matches, really to the forefront in the U.S. Obviously, Cactus and Eddie Gilbert was doing like bar matches and stuff like that. But bar bad and Thumbtack and Taipei, Ian and Axel really brought to America. And then Axel stayed in ECW, so then Ian needed an opponent to go around, and Pondo was a guy that wanted to do it, and he's still doing it. I saw him a couple months ago. Shadow WX was in for a little US tour, and he was coming up the arena steps as I was going into the gorilla area right there, and he was like, "What's up, Nicky Nick?" And no matter how long I've been Nick Maniwa, I've been Nick Maniwa since 2002. When I was a kid, I was Nicky Nick to Man Pondo. So he was like, "Shadow, this is my pal, Nick. This is my pal, and no matter what he tells you, his name's not Nick Maniwa. That's fucking Nicky Nick right there." And I was like, "Nice to meet you, Shadow. I'm Nicky Nick." So, obviously, Ian and Pondo didn't, got along, then didn't get along, then got along, then didn't get along. They're only, never getting along again right now. But even through all their stuff, he never took that out on me or treated me any different. It was always all love, and it's all love. People always say that he's my dad because with the backwards hat on, especially when I had the shaved, we looked a lot. We looked alike, and Ricky Shane Page thrown into that too. So,
Oh yeah.
we sadly never got a family portrait, but one time Pondo was selling 8x10s of him and Cactus Jack. And one of my friend's kids came by and was like, "Hey, man, you ruined that picture with Mick Foley over there." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And it was a Pondo 8x10. And I was like, "You son of a bitch."
That's funny. All right. Last but not least.
Yes.
This guy, I swear you just watch some of his matches and you will see it. It is plainly evident why he says Sabu was one of his favorite wrestlers. Alex Stretch.
I don't know a ton about Alex Stretch. I've seen him on H2O. I don't think he was ever on a show, or I don't know if we've ever been in the same area. I know he does crazy stuff on those H2O shows. I've seen him, he does stuff where you're like, he's hurt for real. This is bad. And then he just pops up and does whatever.
Oh yeah, there was one of the I forget what H2O show it was, but it wasn't all that long ago where he's literally like they went to go through a table that was wrapped in barbed wire. He was the only one that landed on the table, but only like the one like section of it broke. Right. So he's literally like hanging off of the table.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter. Yep.
Somebody check to make sure he's not dead.
Right. Yeah. I think he has a bright future. Those, especially those crazy son of a bitches. If you're willing to do that to your body, the fans are going to get behind you. They're going to appreciate you, and then that's just going to make you. That's going to grow your lore even bigger than it is because they can see that you're killing yourself here at the Kevin Hogan Memorial Hall every weekend or every other weekend.
Yeah. It's still on my list to try to get out there for a H2O show. I mean,
I've never been in that building either, man.
Yeah, I've never been in that building, but like literally ever since I've been talking with talent from there, I watch the shows. I'm like, God damn, that looks like it'd be fun.
Right.
All right. Now I got some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far.
Right on.
So, I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about some of the stuff for this first question, but craziest in-match moment that you have been there to witness?
Man, I mean, obviously we talked about Joe and Necro, just seeing that. I wasn't, on the call for it, but, seeing it live, just, seeing that exploder off of the ring apron, in person, you're just like, oh, he's dead. I've seen some crazy deathmatch stuff. Schlack almost bled out at that one King of the Death, and like I said, the commentary booth was right, in line with the locker room, and you can see him tying that leather strap around his leg to stop the bleeding, and until the ambulance gets there in Podunk, Memphis, Indiana, at the flea market, just to make sure he doesn't die and bleed out. Just crazy stuff like that. I've seen Tremont and John Wayne Murdoch come off of giant scaffolds through crazy stuff. I'm just trying to think, like, all those death match, all those King of the Death matches, every now and then the clip of John Wayne and Ricky will go viral, and people, oh, you did this for a hot dog, or blah 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 blah. Dude, that, especially the finals of a King of the Death matches, like, that crowd is just pumped up, and they know they're going to see some shit. And just like Tremont in 2014, and it's just crazy. The amount of pain that they inflict on their bodies, and they're still able, 2, 3, 4 rounds if they're going to the finals. Obviously I've unfortunately seen some injuries. Trip Cassidy got a bad gash at one of the Prince of the Death matches. Obviously Schlack, like I said, Reed Bentley's head incident that he became Franken Bentley from. I was on the Rome cam for that because we didn't have a camera crew. So I'm seeing my best friend like maybe bleed out, and I have to like shoot the finish of a match instead of like running to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was crazy. And then when you get into the back, and there's footage on the DVD of like me in the back, and I turn the little viewfinder around. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's a good one, huh?" And he was like, "Nobody posts anything. I don't want my mom to find out." And we were like, "Don't post anything. Tina will kill us. Don't post anything." So yeah, I mean, crazy stuff like that. Obviously, you just want to have a show where everyone goes home safe and sound. Always go down at intermission, like, or even at Paradigm Pro. Like, I help try to keep the train moving, essentially. So I'm not doing commentary. I'm just making sure people are on deck and whatever. And I'm always like, everyone okay? Everybody okay? Nobody hurt? Nobody? Are we good? Like, I just want everyone to walk in and walk out the same way that they got there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, totally. And yeah, I've witnessed my fair share of crazy ones. Like I mentioned, either one of the times that I've seen the second Gear Crew versus Red at Revolver,
Right.
those have both been nuts.
I bet.
And hell, this next one, the one June 22nd, is actually all three of them against each other in a Cage of Horrors match.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's going to be insane.
Oh, God, yeah.
Just because of the cage, don't think they're not going to get out of that son of a bitch, break down, God knows what.
It's going to be nuts. But yeah, no, from Matthew Justice jumping off a scaffold both times to the whole turn at the end of the last one, that, like, nuts. My first ever like legit death match was actually again at Revolver, and it was Joel Bateman versus Jake Christ.
Okay.
And it was you might have seen it, but it
yeah.
like the match before it was a Monsters Ball match,
mm-hmm.
and Jake just rolls in like, fuck that, don't clean it up, let's go.
Right.
And then the way it ended with the folding chairs and the panes of glass, and then Bobby Olson comes in with a lighter fluid.
Right.
Oh God. I was third row for that one.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And I just remember, like, I'm on my feet, jaw practically on the floor. I'm like, holy shit.
Right, absolutely.
And I've actually had both Bobby and Jake on.
I love Hollywood Bobby Olson and Jay Chris, when he burnt up the IWA belts. People,
I had Jake on shortly after that video came out.
Right. People thought, there was going to be some issues, but like, hey man, whatever happens between you and Ian is between you and Ian. It doesn't have anything to do with me and you. Like, you've always treated me well, and I've called quite a few Jake matches since then, and it's always a pleasure to see him and Bobby.
Oh yeah,
on a show.
Oh yeah, I've got nothing but love for both of them. I remember shortly after the personal tragedy thing that I told you about before the recording, Jake was actually one of this was actually one of the first shows I went to after,
Right.
and I was standing outside just hanging around after the show for a bit. Ended up Jake was one of the first people I talked to about everything after it
Right.
all. So, like I was already a fan of his,
Yeah.
after how great the recording went. But man, even both in the ring and personal, I nothing but love for him.
Right. Absolutely, man.
All right, now obvious some of these my hobbies behind me,
Yes.
some hobbies that you have, because if any, because I know between some of the wrestling stuff that you're able to go to and kids and everything being a priority, which they should be,
Right.
obviously.
Absolutely.
What are some hobbies that you have?
Actually, I haven't done it in a while. I'm trying to get back into the groove of it. I dabble in custom figures. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so I actually, use, the old Jax parts or Mattel parts or Jazzware parts, whatever, I provided or I have, and make custom figures. It's Maniwa Figs on Instagram, and
Mm.
then I believe it's Papa Maniwa Figs on Facebook. Like I said, I haven't done it in a while. I'm trying to get back in the groove of it. I have some orders, so I definitely got to get back in the groove of it. So I do enjoy dabbling in the custom figure realm. Uh, in terms of other hobbies, me and Mike Ruff of roughfigures.com have the Mid-South Memories podcast where it's basically an IWA Midsouth rewatch series. And we watch the show and take notes and talk about it. And if I know the inside baseball on the show or any funny stories, I'm able to tell that. And he can ask questions. And, that's on the BNMVS podcast network. Literally every pod catcher you can find, I've tried to make sure that I'm on that. So if not, and you go looking for it and you can't find it, let me know and I'll if I'm able to get on there, I will put it on there for you. But I was just looking up every pod bean and pod this and pod that, and just trying to get everything in order. I actually want to do. I used to have a podcast called Wrestle Maniwa, and I want to do more of that where it's like an interview, a conversation with a friend. I want to try to get some older IWA guys on it just to tell their story, and especially guys that were like kind of pre-internet, So, if you don't know about them, you don't know about them, essentially. So, I'm looking to get that going. Like I said, I was waiting to get this new computer, and I got a new microphone thanks to my good pal Aaron Rose. He gifted me I think it's a Samson something or other, but it's a real quality microphone. So I do have fun doing those podcasts. I also, I'm an old guy. I watch Wheel of Fortune every weekday, and I don't know if we are supposed to talk about it, but I like signed up to be a contestant and got to be
Mm.
interviewed by them. And the only reason I have Zoom on my computer is because that's what they use to interview people.
I heard about that.
So I just tell them that I'm a stay-at-home dad. I moonlight as a wrestling commentator on the weekend, and the guy's like, "Oh, you might be good for WWE week, so maybe next year for around Mania, you might see this handsome devil on Wheel of Fortune." Unfortunately, Pat Sajak's retiring, so it will be Ryan Seacrest. So I'm sad about that, but what can you do? Other stuff that I'm into like paranormal like
Mm.
podcasts. Radio Rental is like my top, but Spooked and Harold's Campfire and Monsters Among Us and stuff like that. I listen to those, and when I'm doing chores, if I have a podcast going, it doesn't feel like I'm doing chores. So, I'm a house husband. My wife works. I take care of the kids, and I'm a stay-at-home dad. So, while I'm sorting laundry or doing the dishes or unloading the dishwasher, I'm either listening to one of those podcasts or Between the Sheets, another great wrestling podcast, and I'm trying to think of other random podcasts that I listen to. Oh, obviously the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. I
That's
joined I joined the Patreon, so I get it early and ad free, and I can never go back after getting it early and ad free.
oh,
Uh,
I can imagine.
I'm in that Facebook group, and just being part of that community is awesome. And I'm trying to think of other stuff. I like stand-up comedy. I like horror movies, comedies, and I don't really, if I'm out doing something, I'm going to a wrestling show usually. That's my activity for the month or whatever it may be.
Gotcha. And you bring up paranormal and spooky podcasts. There's a podcast that I listen to that the guy actually has a spooky one. The podcast I listen to, one of the other ones I listen to at work, Time Suck with Dan Cummins, but he has a Scared to Death one where it's
Okay.
like spooky stuff.
Yeah.
So that one you might want to check
Yeah, I
out.
definitely will. I've heard of that, but I don't think I've ever checked it out. So I definitely will. It's hard to find. I started with that radio rental, which is people telling their real stories, calling in and whatever. And you kind of compare everything to that because that was the first one you ever heard. So
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find, and then you find something like Mr. Ballin, who has like hundreds
Oh,
of
one of my
episodes.
favorites. I love that guy.
Right, yeah. So like I follow him on YouTube, and then he was like, check me out on podcasts, and then I downloaded his, all of his podcasts and had them, auto downloading and stuff. And then I was like, this is too much. He puts out one like every day or every other day or something. So I was like, this
Yeah,
is too
it's
much.
awesome.
Yeah, I was overstimulated with that. I had to remove it and just stick to the YouTube for now.
Yeah, no, that I discovered him on YouTube, and yeah, no, he's one of just the way he great storyteller
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
get right to it. But yeah, no, that podcast definitely something that I listen to when mowing the yard and stuff.
Yep.
I'll just plop in.
I feel like I'm wasting my time if I don't have something playing, even like in the shower, like I'll
Mhm.
throw on a podcast or something way before I turn on Spotify. And like between the sheets, like I don't know if you've ever heard of that podcast, but they go through the current week in years past through the newsletters. So they'll read the Observer for like this week and tell you, in 1987, what was going on, who was going where. And, I love wrestling so much. I want to know that history. There's been, I've listened to, 100+ episodes of their podcast. And, one of the running jokes is like, anytime they mention Tom Brandy, they say, "Oh, that jobber Tom Brandy," from Mark Merrill's promo on him, when he's like, "You're not Sal Sincere, you're that jobber Tom Brandy." And every single time I laugh at it, even when I know it's coming, I still think it's one of their bits, but I think it's hilarious.
Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, now everybody has a favorite food, but
Yes.
what is one that you would say your least favorite? Like if you had the choice, you're just not touching it.
Man, it's probably like not even something super serious, probably like mushrooms or something like that. Like not into mushrooms. Uh, I'm trying to think of like there's nothing in like I cook majorly for the family, so like I'm not gonna buy shit that I'm not gonna eat. So they're probably not gonna eat it. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to think of like super gross stuff. Uh, Doug Funny had liver and onions. That was his cursed
Yeah,
thing
on Doug. Yeah.
on Doug. So I guess it would be that. My mom used to cook like chicken gizzards when she
Mm.
was still alive, and I was like, I'm not touching that stuff.
I've had those, but me, I know for me, I don't know. Like, okay, if this is mixed in with like a casserole or something, then I'm fine. But I can't do straight peas, like just
Right.
peas by themselves. I can't do it.
See,
And
I don't eat canned peas, but I'll eat frozen peas like every day. Uh,
yeah, I used to not be able to do green beans, but if I get like the fresh ones,
yeah, yeah,
then oh,
yeah.
by all means. But the other one for me, and I catch shit about this,
Uh-oh.
deviled eggs.
Okay, I'm not a. I am a egg guy. I am a hard boiled egg guy. I just made egg salad a couple of days ago. I don't think I've ever tried a deviled egg, and I don't think I want to.
Yeah, no, I literally like scrambled eggs. I'll have an omelet,
Right, right,
but deviled eggs. The last time I tried, my family was like, "Oh, come on, you got to at least try it."
right, right,
Then I put it in my mouth, and I'm just like, I try to swallow, and I just
right.
like I about puked it back up.
In terms of favorite food, no, you didn't ask that, but
No, yeah, no, but by all means,
fried
go.
chicken. Like, I love fried chicken.
Oh,
My
dude, can't.
wife bought an 8 piece at Walmart the other day. She had to go get some shampoo and stuff, and I was like, "Hey, give me some fried chicken." Uh, you try to make it at home, and it's just never the same. You can't get the crust right, and I've tried and failed multiple times in terms of quality fried chicken. So I'm always like, "Hey, give me some fried chicken," and even shitty Walmart, deli fried chicken will hit the spot if it's got a crust on it and it's hot
Oh
enough.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
oh yeah, no, totally get you there.
I am not
I
a, I'm at my happiest when I'm eating a piece of fried chicken.
oh I hey, can't go wrong there. I know me. It's between like I always joke that I could never be a vegetarian because I love a good cheeseburger too damn much.
Right, right.
But it's probably between cheeseburgers, tacos, and lasagna.
Okay.
Anyone like wife and I go to an Italian place, and she'll joke with me, "Dude, you know you don't even need the menu
Right, right. Absolutely.
because I'm just getting lasagna."
My sister Patty makes a killer lasagna. So for Christmas, instead of buying gifts, she'll make everyone like a lasagna and uh like freeze it and give it to you with the instructions with the bread. And you don't have to cook dinner one night because you got this lasagna in the freezer in the deep freeze or whatever. So she used to make big pans of it and feed like the old Memphis guys and Ian and Axel and the Spiders and the Eliminators and then later on in IWA she would make lasagna and for CM Punk and Colt Cabana and Chris Hero and all those guys. We used to have Thanksgiving dinner at IWA shows. Like one year, we just brought the whole spread instead of having it at someone's house. Because we ran every Thanksgiving night, so we just, I had Thanksgiving with the Goldwell Mafia one year because that's and original Dudley was also on the show, so I guess I had uh Thanksgiving dinner with Dudley as well.
All right. All right. Now, with the name of a show like I have, I would feel weird if I
Yes,
didn't have this question in here.
yes.
Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, because I always tell people just because it says drinking at Moe's doesn't mean that it has to be alcoholic, although more times than not, when you see me drinking something on the show, it is.
Right. I I think my top one is Coke Zero.
Mm.
I'm a Coke Zero guy. Unless I'm at McDonald's and I'm getting the unleaded Coke from McDonald's. You splurge every now and then. I love Coke Zero, whether it has flavoring in it, whether it doesn't. I think that's even like the generic Kroger version of Coke Zero will hit the spot for me. There, that's my top in terms of alcohol. I'm a Jack and Coke guy. Heavy on the Coke, not so much the Jack. I want more taste than the Jack taste. Uh,
Oh,
it used to be vodka and orange juice until one night at the Rustic Frog, former IWA heavyweight champion, the Suicide Kid was there, and he was buying me multiple screwdrivers, and then I just had too many, and I was like, well, this is the end of this. I'm gonna puke right now. I'm never gonna drink this again.
Mm. But you know what? I do enjoy a good Jack and Coke, but I more often than not like to also add to it grenadine.
Okay, yeah.
Basically tastes like a Jack and Cherry Coke.
Right,
Freaking
absolutely.
delicious.
Yeah, I'll have to next time I partake. I'm more of a space gummy kind of guy when it comes to intoxication. But next time I partake, I'll have to do the cherry Coke and Jack for sure.
Oh yeah. No, and I've had people on that, they partake in the, gummies and so
Right,
on.
right,
And I always, because, here in Nebraska it's not legal yet.
right,
I
right.
always tell people, you know what? If it's legal where you're at, treat it just like alcohol. Just don't be stupid.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I
All
think
right.
Kentucky's on the way to getting it legal. I think that's the next jump they're trying to do because a bunch of dispensaries and storefronts are popping up, so they must know something that we do not. So hopefully, you won't have to go all the way to Michigan or wherever it's legal to get that good.
Same here. I'm noticing places every now and then, so who knows?
Good, good.
But last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to, podcasting, getting into the non in ring competitor side of wrestling, what would be your best advice for them?
Yeah, I always tell people like, especially if you have a local show around you or a local independent, just go as a fan and then tell the person, hey, I want to help out. I want to do commentary or I want to do, whatever. At IWA, we used to do tryout shows, and people used to always shit on them, but we'd always have 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 people sign up, to wrestle, to manage. We've had a couple people sign up to do commentary, and Chad French is a guy that tried out at one of those tryout shows, and then after that, whenever he was at a show and I didn't have a partner, I'd be like, "Hey, Chad, I know you paid to get in, but you want to come do commentary?" And, you just you feel special. You want to do commentary, even if you paid $15 to get in. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you get to you get to have a blast. In terms of podcasting, you're just gonna have good equipment and sound good. Uh, Me and Mike Ruff was doing Skype on our phone just because that's what he had, and like I said, my computer was a dinosaur, so I wasn't trying to get it, to boot up Skype would take like an hour. So like I couldn't imagine trying to record on it. So I finally sent him a USB microphone. So hopefully our sound quality on Mid-South Memories will get better, and people will listen to that. Yeah, just there's always, and people are like, there was a million podcasts. Why does anybody care if who cares, man? If
As
you
long
want
as you're
to
fun with it.
if you want to talk to your buddy, and only like I tell Mike, I was like, I don't know how many people listen, but every now and then I'll get a tweet or a comment. Hey, I don't. We asked on the last episode. We try to do only shows on IWTV. That way, if people want to watch it back, they can. And we asked, like, hey, does that affect you? Do you watch the show back? If not, let us know, because a lot of those bigger shows aren't on IWTV, especially the big moments. So, we were kind of gauging where the crowd was in that sense. So, I if me and Reed Bentley used to do a podcast back in the day, and we just we're best friends, but we wouldn't talk about our week or our weekend if we weren't together until we got on the podcast, and then it's just a conversation, and a lot of people would be like, I felt like I was in the room with you. You're just talking to your friend, and you guys are just cutting up, and even though we I think my top subscribers on iTunes was like 40 people. Like, hey, that's 40 more than I had when I wasn't doing it. So whatever, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
just don't feel like you can't. And even if you're 30, 40, 50 years old. If you want to do it, you know, don't let it be a what if.
Yeah.
Just do it. And then you know if you do a couple and you're like, oh, this isn't for me, then you know. There's not a question of it.
Oh yeah. No, hell, I know me. I my YouTube channel that I use for the podcast, I actually had it started like a couple of years before I actually started the podcast because, I just wanted places for, I could stuff an extra place for like funny TikToks
Right, right.
of mine that I could have a secondary spot, or like when they had that ice bucket challenge
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
thing, I put something on
Right.
there, and then started the podcast. And I think I had maybe 20 subscribers. Now I'm up to 327.
Yeah.
So hey, yeah,
Somebody's
no,
watching, man.
yeah, and that the thing, like you said, if you have a passion about something, you want to share it with people, just don't let yourself talk yourself out of it.
Right, absolutely. And if you're true and genuine, the people that do listen to it will be able to hear it and they'll relate and invest and want to hear what you're going to say next,
Mm-hmm.
or see who you're going to have on the show next. I was going through your YouTube and I was like, oh, I don't know them. I don't know. Okay, I know them. Oh, I know him. Oh, okay, okay. So just like that, you're gonna have 328 by the end of this because I'm gonna go sub and I'll get all my phantom YouTubes and all that stuff to sub. So we'll be up to like 333 by the end of it, buddy.
All right, because speaking of something like that, it actually reminded me of something before we get going. One final little thing.
Yes.
The same podcast that I heard that Kate on Fightful does, the one of them she does is the Ring of Honor show.
Right.
And it was funny because she was talking about Athena, and she's like, I think she, because worried about possible injuries, I think she has a independent show like sometime in June, I think the 15th. And as soon as I got home, because I can confirm that yes, she does have a independent show on the 15th, because one of the other ones that I recorded this week that will be out before that show was actually with her opponent for that show.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, that was kind of funny because I tweeted Kate and I was like, yeah, I can confirm Athena does have a show that day because I interviewed her opponent.
Which is who?
Maya World.
Okay.
So yeah, she's been doing pretty good lately.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, before we go, where can people find you social media wise so they don't already have their eyes on you? They can go ahead and get them there.
I am at Nick Maniwa on everything. NickManiwa. Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, anything you can have, Threads, whatever you can have a username on. I'm at Nick Maniwa. I have my schedule of commentary on my Facebook page, that facebook.com/Nick Maniwa. Don't be like Rob Naylor and be upset that my last name is not Maniwa when you go on Facebook. But as I put on there, I'm always available for post commentary. If there's anybody out there, like I said, I've provided it for Mid Death Pro, for Flophouse. I do it for New Era Wrestling out of Shelbyville, Indiana. They're on IWTV every month. I've been doing that for a year there. I love wrestling. I'm going to react, like I said, at home with a microphone and headphones on, just like I'm going to react at that show. I did a show for Wrestle Rave out of Texas. Their commentary got corrupted, and they got me on for one show, and I believe it was Chris Carter did a double moonsault on in a scramble match with like 7 people, but he jumps to the top rope, does the double moonsault, and I'm losing my mind, like, holy shit, a double moon. You hear me slap my knee, like just losing my mind, like could not believe I just saw a double moonsault on this show.
That's insane.
Yeah, insane. Like I said, I love this stuff. I love pro wrestling. If you need commentary, if you need anything like that at all, please let me know. Yeah, man, I love it all.
Definitely. Hell, maybe one of these days I'll be joining you on there.
Hopefully, man, let's get it together. There's a bunch. My good friend Regal in Iowa up there for SCW. He's always like, oh, I'd love to do some commentary because I've known Regal for years. All those SCW guys I've known for quite a while from the NWA No Limit days, and IWA was partnering with them. So I know all those guys. So hopefully, all these guys that are spread out, in the indie world, we can all do some commentary with and have some fun for sure.
Oh yeah, no, definitely be fun. Well, that is about all I have. I can see my dog looking over at me like he's telling me it's time for dinner, so I better go take care of that. But thank you again for taking the time to talk to me tonight. It's been a pleasure. I wish you well with the family, with other wrestling travels, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, my friend. I had such a blast. It felt like no time at all had passed by the time we were at the end of this. So hopefully everybody else enjoys it. And yeah, anytime you want me for a part 2, let me know, man, and we'll get it done.
Definitely. That means a lot because I can be my own worst critic. So when I can tell my guests are having fun, that means the world to me.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you, man.